Right, Chapter 7. So here we are, Workplace and Apprenticeship 20, Chapter 7. This is the final chapter in the textbook, and this is the final chapter that we're going to be doing. And it's all about budgeting, personal budgets. So this is something that's applicable to everyone, no matter who you are. You want to keep track of the money that you're making, that's income, and the money that you have to pay out each month for different things, those are your expenses, okay? So income versus expenses is the first major thing that you have to understand, okay? What is a budget? Okay, if we look on this first page, and you guys have already looked at this, some of you, so let's just go back to the first page and take a peek. A budget is a balanced statement of projected income and expenses. Okay, so we talked about income and expenses. A budget is sort of a plan of how you can meet your needs. Those are the things that you're paying for, groceries, gas, rent, whatever it is, and balance that with the money that you make in, that you turn in. So ideally, all of your commitments, that is your expenses, the things you have to pay, should be less than the money that you make, right? Because you don't want to spend more money than you make, because you will end up being in the hole, or you'll lose your stuff. I mean, that's not sustainable. So a budget is an important way of knowing, hey, can I spend $50 a month eating out at McDonald's? Or can I spend $15? Like, it's an important thing to know, because if you just go every day, and spend $300 at McDonald's in a month, and you have a job that pays you $350 a month, and you have a car, and you have a cell phone, and you got to put gas in that cell phone. I mean, gas in the car. Were you paying attention? And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I got to cut back on my spending at McDonald's because I can't afford that. So this is what we're looking at. Okay, so there's a few things we need to understand, a few terms, okay? Budget is the first one. It's a balance. Income, expenses. And income and expenses are the first things that we want to understand. Income is money coming in. Expenses is payments going out. Okay, so there's different types of income. Okay, so on this page it talks about your income. And then it says, so here's income. It says, is it regular or does it vary? So regular income is something that it's the same number every month or whatever, like every period, it's the same number. It's something you can count on being the same. So that's kind of a regular. Or regular is at least you're getting some money every certain period of time. Okay? Variable income is income that has an amount that changes. Okay? So it changes. It's like if you're working on the weekends for your neighbor lady or something. Some weekends she wants you to cut the grass, some weekends she wants you to do some heavier landscaping. So maybe you get paid nothing one weekend for not doing anything, or maybe you get paid a lot for doing a big job, right? That's variable. Okay. Other examples of variables would be commissions. You don't know exactly how much you're going to sell if you make money on commission. And of course, commission, for those of you that don't know what commission is, if you're a salesman, commission is a certain percentage of the amount of sales in the month that you are responsible for. So if you're selling shoes at the local shoe store down here, and you sell $1,000 worth of shoes in a month, okay, which maybe isn't a lot, the price of shoes these days, but you would get maybe a percentage of that, right? So if you get 10% of that, you get $100. It's usually not that high, I don't think. But if you sell $5,000 the next month, because it's a really good month for you and you're really getting the hang of this, or it's just leading up to Christmas or a certain sports season, then you make $500 that month instead of $100, right? It depends. It varies with your sales. So commission is a percentage of total sales if you're responsible for that. Tips, you know what tips are. Piecework would be like, doing work for your neighbor lady or whatever. Okay. Any questions there so far? Incomes, expenses, variable, regular. We're going to talk more about each of those as we move on. Okay, what about your expenses? Okay, expenses. Now, is your expense recurring? That means it happens on a schedule, on a time schedule. So an expense that's recurring might be if you have a cell phone bill, right? You have to pay your cell phone bill every month, and maybe that's a fixed amount every month. Maybe you're on a prepay or something. Or rent. Let's say you're renting an apartment or something, and you know what your rent is every month. Okay, that's recurring and regular as well. Okay, so what are your possible unexpected? Okay, so some may vary. Unexpected expenses. if you have an emergency bill for a sick pet, or if you have a car and it breaks down and you got to get it fixed, or whatever, something unexpected comes up, right? You know what that's all about. And then savings is another one. Okay, so savings. What do you want to save for? Everybody should be saving something. You should be putting a little bit of money aside for some, maybe some cost or some expense or some project in the future that you don't even know about. So you should be putting some money away. And of course, if you're one other thing that's missed here, and so at a Christian school, we're at a Christian school here. What's another expense every month as a Christian that a lot of Christians plan for? Tithing. Okay. So as a Christian, the Bible instructs us that we should give of our time and talents and of our finances to the church so that the Lord's work can go forward, right? So that's something as well in your budget that you might want to plan for, okay? And you won't see that probably in this textbook, but many people of different faiths plan for a tithe or some regular giving to charities or to the church. So that would be part of your expenses as well. All right, any questions so far? No? All right. So in example 1 here, okay, let's take a look at example 1 here. This should be pretty easy, okay? Should be pretty easy. What we're doing is we're taking a list of these things and we're dividing them into income and expenses, okay? So income is money that comes in and expenses, money that goes out. So let's take a look. I'll highlight in blue all of the things that represent income. So is paycheck income? Yes or no? Paycheck, is that income? Yeah, that gets paid to you. It comes in to you. Gas. So you're going to pay for gas for your car. Is that income? No. Cell phone bill. Is that income? No. New boots? No. Paycheck? Yes. Birthday gift from grandparents? That is income. Yes.
Birthday gift to grandparents?
Yes. No. Yeah. No. It says from. Yeah. No. It's not to grandparents. It's from. You're right. Yeah. But to grandparents would be an expense, right? But this is income. Okay. Car loan payment. Is that income or expense? You tell me. That's expense. Okay. A new hard hat for work to replace the lost hat. That is an expense. Eating out. What's that? That's an expense. It's an income for your tummy, right? Okay. Yeah. So in yellow here, we would have the expenses. Okay, does that make sense? Now, in the solution here, they have them divided out. So did we get those right? Yeah, looks like it. Okay, income and expenses. Now, let's talk a little bit further about this chart right here. Okay, let's examine each item under income. Okay, income. The two paychecks look like they are a regular income. Okay, since they are both for the same amount. Remember we said if you can bank on or if you can count on a certain amount and even a certain time, usually they go together. But let's focus on the amount as being regular. So if it's a regular income, that is an amount that you can count on. So the paycheck is for the exact same amount. So it looks like they've taken some sort of salary agreement and divided it in half, and that's what you get. All right, the birthday gift is variable. Now, you can't guarantee that you're going to get $100 in total every year for your birthday. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. When you get older, maybe you don't get as much at all. Okay, so that's variable. Recurring expenses. Okay, so that would probably be what? The car loan payment. That would be something that probably comes every month, right? So that is recurring. Would anything else be recurring? Okay. Cell phone bill, for sure. If you're going to keep using your cell phone every month, then that's something you can expect to pay every month. New boots. What about new boots? Would that be recurring? You don't get new boots every month, right? Now, if it's every year, maybe you plan to buy new boots every year at your job. Okay? A new hard hat. Now, this is totally unexpected, right? So we could count replacing the hard hat as unexpected expense because you don't plan on losing part of your equipment every month. Now, if you're forgetful, maybe you do, but that would technically be an unexpected. Okay? And then eating out, I don't know, what do you think about eating out? It could be unexpected.
It could be recurring.
Yeah, it could be recurring.
What if they just work really late and don't have time to make food?
Yeah, you know what? Probably, you're going to spend probably if you're working, you're going to probably spend some money on food during the month. Now, you might get away a month where you don't spend any money eating out, versus groceries, but usually there's going to be a little bit. You're going to have to kind of stop and grab something because something comes up. That's very variable though. It's variable, certainly. Okay. So look at the note here. Sometimes it's not easy to classify items as regular or variable because it may depend on the usage. Okay, and that could be your cell phone bill as well, right? That could be a reoccurring expense because it happens every month, but it could be a different amount every month, right? Okay, so understanding what recurring means, it happens very regular time period. Variable means the amount would change. Regular income means the amount should stay the same. So we're going to talk about regular as being the same. Okay. Now in chapter 7, we're gonna squish our time just a little bit. I'm not going to go through many of the build your skills. I'm just going to do some examples, and I'm going to let you do this practice on your own. Okay. So I'm going to just shorten things up a little bit because we're getting towards the end of the semester here. We only have a week for this chapter. So number 1 will be build your skills, and this is asking you if you choose to do this question, because I'm not going to make you. I'm only going to make you do the stuff towards the end of the section here, not in the middle. But this would be classifying as regular or variable. So it's something that stays the same or it changes. And you may think, two people may think the opposite thing as long as you have the proper reason. So for example, a semi-monthly paycheck, that's paycheck twice a month. That could be regular, because just like our previous example, you could get the same amount dropped into your account every 2 weeks. Or it depends on how many hours you work that month. So that would be variable. And then you would provide your reasoning. Okay? Okay. So as long as we understand what regular and variable is, what recurring, unexpected, that sort of thing, all of those different terms. Okay. Okay, and here's question number 3 as well. And again, income, expense, and is it reoccurring, variable, or unexpected? So I'll refer you back to the examples for those ones, and yeah, there's the questions there. So let's move on to example 2. Again, we're going to keep moving on here. So build your skills. I'll get you guys to do that for practice as much as you can, but I won't be marking those for this class here this year. Okay, just the practice your skills at the end of the section. That's what I'll be marking. But please stay with me as we go through these examples. So example 2, Carlos has made a list of income and expenses for 1 month. So here's his list: income and expenses. He plans to use any extra income to put into savings. How much money does he have to put into savings? Okay, well, on this side is the money that comes in. On this side is the money that goes out. So anything, like the difference between the income and expenses, as long as you make more than your expenses, that difference is the amount of money that you have left over to put towards your savings. And that's what this question's about. So what we want to do is we want to add up all of the income numbers and add up all of the expense numbers and then subtract the two. Hopefully the income is bigger, this one minus this one, okay? And then that's how much money he has to put into savings. Now we'll flip down to the solution here, okay? So they've done this for you. It's in your workbook. You have this on the next page. So the income is, the sum is right here, 539.92 times 2. The total expenses, if you add up that right column, you should get this for expenses. Notice that the income is greater excuse me, than the expenses. That's great. The difference between the two would be the amount that you would theoretically have to put into savings. Now remember, a budget, so here's the answer to the question. A budget is a plan, right? So it's up to you guys when you make a budget, and I'm going to get you to make a budget here as part of this chapter. It's up to you guys to make a budget, have a plan, but then it's also, the most important thing is to follow through on that, right? So maybe you guys aren't thinking about budgets at this point in your life, I'm not sure, but to have a budget is one thing, but it does take some discipline to follow through on a budget, right? And to say, hey, you know what? I know I've spent this much amount of money and I've used my budget for the month, so I can't spend any more. I have to say no for the last week here or whatever. You know what I mean? So as long as we know that, making a budget is great, But following the budget is what's important, right? Because then it helps you to follow through on your plans. All right. So the next question, B would say, how much money can Carlos save over the course of 1 year? So if he saves a certain amount from A every month, you multiply by 12, and you get that savings for the year. Okay? So here's an interesting question. What percentage of his income do Carlos's savings represent? So remember how to find percentage. You take the savings and you divide it by what? What would we divide it by? The percentage of his income. So that would be this number here. So let's flip over to the next page and see the solution there. So in C, 1 month, Carlo earns this much money and he saves this much money, which we figured out from A. So the percentage would be the savings divided by the total times 100%, and that gives approximately 8.7 or 9% of his income. Okay? And in a good budget, you should plan to save 10% of your income, if possible. And we'll talk about how to make a budget and sort of what numbers might be reasonable. We'll talk about that in the next section. Okay? All right, so the last question, I will go over this last question with you. D says, Carlos wants to buy a new computer in a year. He expects that it will cost $1,500. How much more would he need to save per month to be able to afford it? And remember, it says 1 year, so we've got 1 year. So we go over to this next page, and he was able to save $93.94, right? That's his savings, $93.94. We already multiplied that by 12 to get the yearly savings. Do you see, this is what he would save in a year. The computer is going to be, what, $1,500? So he's a little short to buy the computer in a year. But if he really wants to buy it within the year, he would have to say to himself, well, you know what, I need to save a little bit more. And so what happens is, this question asks us, how much more does he have to save? Okay, and so 1,500 divided by 12 is 125. He actually saves $93.94, so the difference there is 31. He needs to save $31 extra a month. Does that make sense? So how could he do that? Well, this is important too. So food and entertainment are variable expenses. If he really wants to buy that computer within the year, then he has to kind of like tighten the belt a little bit, right? Have you heard of that? Pull up the socks, tighten the belt a little bit, pinch the penny, whatever the expression is. It means you gotta quit spending money in one area to put it into another. And so what he could do is he could spend less per month on eating out, or spend less per month on entertainment, whether that's movies or subscriptions or whatever it is. Could save a little more there. Also, clothing is a variable expense that was listed there, and so maybe he could, not buy any new clothes for a couple months and help put some money towards there, or just spend less. Okay. So, do you guys have any questions so far about any of this? I'm kind of going kind of fast in this lesson, but is it making sense? Okay. How many of you? Have you ever done a budget before? Do any of you work with one at all? How many of you have a job or make some money at all during the month? Okay, so all of you. Okay, so that's good. So you do have some money coming in, and do you know about your expenses? Do you know how much money you guys are putting out each month? Have you kind of compared the two a little bit? Okay, so what you should do, and again, in this chapter, I want you to start thinking about a budget. So keep track of what you make in a given month, and then keep track also of the things that you spend your money on. Okay? Because it'd be good for you to see what the comparison is. All right? Okay. So again, here's some practice questions for this. And you know what? Maybe we'll let's see. Well, let's do one of these together. Okay, this is pretty important. It kind of encompasses a lot of things we've done. So let's do number 4 together. Okay, Tanya's made a list of her income and expenses for 1 month. She will put any extra income into savings. So if she has an unexpected car repair that costs this much, $243.25, how much will she save this month? Okay, so let's find out her savings, right? So what we have to do is we have to add up all of the income first. So $450, and how many? Oh, that's weekly, so that's times 4. You see that? So times 4. So let's see, what's that going to be? 1,800. Somebody do that on your calculator. Make sure we're on the right track there.
Yeah.
1,800. Okay, so that's income. Awesome. What about expenses now? So let's add up all of these numbers. Go ahead. I want all of you to do that. Get on your calculator there. Add up all the expenses, and then we'll compare our numbers at the end. So that number we got was, you add up all those, 1,522.7. Okay, 0.77. Okay. All right. Oh, it's frozen still? All right. So we have income, we've got expenses. Okay. So the leftover will be everything in savings. Okay. And so let's figure that out. Again, we just do the subtraction. Did you guys get that for a number 2? 277. Okay, so savings is 277.23. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, so that's what is left over for savings. Okay. What about this though? Did anybody do this? Did you put this into your expenses? I'm just wondering. This unexpected car repair. Did we put that in or no? Okay. So this 1522.77 actually is what? We got to add 243 to that. So we're going to have to back up a little bit here. So 1522.77 along with the unexpected car repair. You see the car repair is not on here. So let's add 243.25. 1766.02. 1766.02. So that's actually going to slash the amount of savings, isn't it? So what do we get for a difference there now? $33.98. Right. So we can't forget about these, maybe these unexpected ones, right? Okay, so that's the savings. This is the number right here. Well, you know what? Sometimes that happens in a month. Sometimes you have some unexpected repairs or expenses, and then you aren't able to put as much away. Some months, though, things go really well, and you have a good month, and nothing breaks down, or nothing wears out, or nothing comes up. You don't have to do anything unexpected, and you're able to put lots away. Now, does it say? Okay, it doesn't say this, but I'm going to ask you: what percentage was Tanya able? What percentage of her income was Tanya able to save this month? So, you guys, how would we do that? You're looking at the savings, and we're trying to find the percentage of her income, right? So we're doing 33.98 divided by 1,800 times 100%, because that'll give us percent. So what do we have there? Sorry? Percentage.
1.8%.
That's 1.8%. Did anybody else get that? Okay. So if you move the decimal place back one spot from 1,800, you get 180. That's 10%. If you move it back another one, $18 is 1%. Did you know that? So 1% would be 18, 2% would be 36. So this is just under 36, so that's reasonable that this is just under 2%. Okay? Okay, perfect. That's not part of this question, but that's part of other questions. So awesome. Okay, so that's really good for the first part of first half of section 7.1. And any questions? Okay. All right. So here's some more questions. What I'm going to get you to do, I'm not going to get you to do all the ability skills, but I will get you to do a couple of them. So why don't you do number 5 and number 6, just to see if you're kind of where you should be right now. So take a few moments to do number 5 and 6. So this is 7.1, part 1.